This is cool. So I'm playing outside and I'm struggling to get the signal to my amp here. But as I do that, I invite you to join me. I'll be warming up, practicing, and enjoying what's left of summer here in Stockholm. This day actually proves there's a little bit left, but soon it will be gone. Should probably go get myself a regular guitar cable. This one isn't really working. I'm trying to do the wireless thing. Come on, wireless, please work. Yeah, I'm gonna get myself a regular cable. Sorry about this. So, you'll get to look at my lovely guitar. Let's hope it stays there. And I'll be back in a second. Here we go. Good old-fashioned guitar cable should do the trick. So, kind of silly of me to expect that the wireless system would work. I haven't used it for like 6 months. I just checked that it was charged, but yeah, I'll need to look that up. But I'm back. So, it's a good idea. You can warm up with some bands. Hopefully you guys can see and hear me properly. A lot of people actually overlook the bending and vibrato, including myself for a very long time. So that stuff needs to be practiced as well, just as your scales do. Hopefully you can see and hear me properly. It's so bright outside I can barely, but I see no one's asked anything yet at least. My phone screen is basically struggling to keep up with the direct sunlight. There you have it, some chromatic vibrato practicing. Another thing you can do if you're bored by practicing the slower stuff is to actually practice the build-ups where you end on a hopefully a strong vibrato note. So you could do just basic would be these kind of build-ups. You could do your like an arpeggio thing. Whoop, I dropped my pick. One more time, so you do your arpeggio. and you practice ending on a cool tone. Hey there, Jomo. Sorry, I can barely see the screen. It's so much sun out there. And as you can tell, I'm Scandinavian because I sit outside in the sun. In the warmer countries, I guess you would flee the sun, but here we know that it's just gonna last for a few more days, and then we have 6 months of winter. When you don't have a whammy bar, that's good as it gets. I need to. That's what I was supposed to warm up for. How to do raking and when to do it. So I think you can do it as much as possible. Raking is one of those things that totally enhances your melodic playing. So anytime you have a few slower notes which you want to emphasize and you play with vibrato, so they're going to benefit from raking. I mean, no one really wants to hear this kind of melody, right? We want that kind of throaty, gutsy, roary kind of sound which you get from your rake. So I'd say anytime you're playing, at least with high gain, and you're playing a slower melody, you're gonna want to rake. You know, I think all modern players who have a cool control of vibrato do pretty aggressive raking. So how do you do raking? Well, raking is just like a sweep, right? But we're not hearing real notes there ringing out. You know, we want those dampened notes, and there are several ways you can do them. I think the most common one is probably to dampen with your left hand. So you can tell that's why I'm holding this finger like that, even though I'm only targeting one note here. It's because I want to damp these notes. So I can rake across them and not getting all these, you know, unwanted noise and unwanted notes ringing. But truth be told, when you're raking really fast, it doesn't really matter if you mute the strings or not. A lot of times that kind of rake can sound good, but the challenge is going to be landing on one single note after you played all of these. So you're still going to have to be in control of muting, but you don't have to mute when the rake is taking place. So like this. You can tell I'm really playing across all strings. I'm doing this, but faster. Like that, right? But slow, it doesn't sound that good because we don't want to hear all these strings. But fast, you can't really tell what happens. It's just, I would say, noise with personality right before your note there. So the biggest challenge, whether you want to be raking with open strings or with damped strings, is to control noise, because regardless of which one you go for, you still need to be totally noise-free when you get out of the rake. So you're gonna have to watch all of my other videos where I speak about that. Basically, using all the parts of your hands that are at your disposal, which you're not currently using, use them to mute the unwanted strings. That means this part of your finger, right? It's not used, you're only using the tip of your finger to fret. You can even use the thumb You can use the palm of your hand. Sometimes you can, or your right hand, you can use the palm here to mute. And you can also actually mute the top string sometimes with the fingers of your right hand. I do that. I rest on those top strings and I know that they're not going to be ringing. So we get... So without any raking, I get... You know, it's a different thing, right? And of course, I mean, if you've done a whole bunch of raked notes, then the contrast can be a little bit cool with a non-raked note. But I would say that's more of the exception that confirms the rule. In general, when you play with high gain and you play a melody, raking is pretty much the way you get, I would say, like that kind of gutsy kind of tone. It's not necessarily in your equipment, but it's the, you know, even without any volume, you can hear this, right? So even though I'm not plugged in, the rake still improves those notes. So you can imagine what happens when I do plug in. So I hope that helps. Thanks a lot for asking about raking. It's an important question. Eric Moore, what's up, my man? That describes my guitar playing, noise with personality. I like it. Yeah, well, I mean, rock and roll is noise. Distortion is noise. We just have to learn to control it. I think we had another question there. Basic techniques on properly doing raking. Yeah, cool. So we covered that. So raking and noise control and controlling unwanted strings, that's all good stuff. Whoops. So my plan was, yeah, well, I don't need to warm up because I can warm up with you guys, but turns out I'm not warming up. I'm trying to show you stuff without being warmed up, which is a shame. So let's warm up a little bit. This is usually the most beneficial kind of warm-up for me. If I can do really slow legato, that really has a major impact on my playing the rest of the day. But I have to be patient and just play at this tempo for like 5 or 10 minutes. So this kind of warm-up, it seems to, well, at that tempo, it's much easier to come up with some variations, so I'm not playing the same thing over and over, and that basically turns the whole session into a bit more creative if I started the session warming up and not doing my usual predictable stuff. So I should do more of this. You probably should too. We all know you can shred. Thank you, Eric. That's important. But this isn't really shredding, right? I think this sounds more of like a warm-up. But again, when I'm warming up at this tempo, I can really do like scales, which is what I'm playing now. But I can also do arpeggios mixed with those scales. And it's easy because it's slow, right? If I were trying to, I will make it much harder. So I'm I really feel like my rusty summer chops are punishing me right now. It's like, haha, you think you can shred after this summer? Think again. Ouch. It's like my fingers totally, ouch, don't want to do what they're being told. I thought that recording that neoclassical etude, which I uploaded yesterday, would do the trick, but it seems not. I was able to play that, but nothing else. It's usually, getting your chops back is usually more time consuming than you expected. I think it's because regardless of how well you warm up, it has to take some time. It's a bit like if you've been away from physical exercise for a long time, and just because you have one good session doesn't mean you're back on track. In fact, one good session, if you're pushing yourself, can be disastrous. So you really have to do one careful session, and that can become a good session, which is pretty much what I'm trying to do right now. So here we have some wind. Does that mess up the audio? Can you still hear me in spite of the wind? That's also a way you can warm up by riffing a little bit. It's usually much more gentle on your hands. Aha! Pretty big difference in sound there, don't you think? Oh, so you can't even see my riffing. That's not a good thing. Let's try one more time. Hey there, Ham. How to improve picking technique for alternate picking. Cool. So, I think I got my first practice actually through riffing like this. That was way before I even knew about Yngwie. It's just that stuff requires quite a bit of control. Even though it doesn't involve any fancy kind of playing, but if you're into rock and metal, that's a good start. But that kind of stuff doesn't really work well when you're going to move across strings, right? And that's usually when you encounter problems, when you try to do. So that's really where the issue lies. How do you go between strings when you pick fast? Because the other part is easier, and there's this thing called tremolo picking, which is, the uncontrolled kind of Slayer, Dave Mustaine kind of, that kind of thing. But it doesn't really work well when you go on different, like, and you're trying to do, and I need to warm up for that. For that kind of thing, then you start running into trouble. And the thing is that there's no one method of doing it. There's lots of different ways. At the Paul Gilbert school, where you pick every note, that's very hard and requires this two-way pick slanting. Basically shift the pick angle depending on basically the string transitions. But then there's the Yngwie approach, where you do more economy picking and legato. I prefer that. So my recommendation, if you want to be able to play fast scales like the one I just did, you can kind of forget about picking every note. It takes you much more time, and it's not very flexible. You're never going to be able to improvise with that, and it's generally not something I would recommend. It's much better to learn to play the whole thing with legato first. So the left hand should be able to play it. And then you can gradually start adding some pick strikes. So there were just a few pick strikes per string. But then the more I practice this, the more I can add more and more pick strikes, and at the end, people probably won't hear that you're still cheating, You're still not picking every note. But you're picking enough notes so that it gets a similar aggressive kind of touch. But everything's made so much easier. So. My summer shops are not up to the task. But again, I would start with legato, That's the best way to do it. And when you can play with legato, add some pick strikes. That's the most flexible picking technique. Yeah. So what I really need to get rid of my rusty summer shops is more legato practice. Ah, there I messed up. Yeah, so that kind of slow legato warm-up is really the best thing for me as I try to regain my chops. And as I was saying, to me it doesn't really matter if the goal is to get my picking chops back together, because if I don't have the left hand working, you know, no right hand is in the world is gonna save me. So this is really what it's all about. It looks silly, but it's really good practice, because I'm not going, you know, the conventional way up and down in the scale. I'm doing variations on the fly. And this is really what one of the goals with my practicing is to achieve some kind of, you know, improvisational freedom. Now, of course, as soon as I speed up, it's so much harder to, you know, rely on improvisation and not just, I mean, if I were just repeating one pattern or whatever, you know, I wouldn't have to worry at all. But now it's a matter of being a bit more creative as you're walking around there. Wickstar, what's up, my man? Ali, thanks so much, man. So you can even weave in some swing into that kind of practicing. I'm playing with that kind of rhythm, right? I'm not doing that would be straight playing. I'm doing swing. Even if you're not into like swingy jazz or something, I'm not into that at all right now, at least. But that requires so much more control, and it's really a super cool way to, well, to improve your technique, and being able to play with different kind of timing even as you're kind of shredding away. That's doesn't sound like swing, but that's the kind of thing. It rhymes. That's the kind of thing you can do when you practice these different rhythms. So as I get a little bit warmed up, I like to start challenging myself and going between rhythm and lead. And it's something I started doing more recently because I find that just lead playing is really horrible for building your rhythm vocabulary, or at least for me it can be. So if I start with some kind of rhythm work, some kind of riff, and then transitioning to lead, I find that the lead part sort of borrows a little bit from the feel of the rhythm section. So a messiah. I will keep on rocking. If you're wondering why I'm looking so weird here, it's because the sun is really strong on my screen right now. So I'm struggling to see any text. So I'm trying to go between rhythm and lead here, and I'm not really in a good shape lead-wise, so it's a struggle. I don't want to be missing all those notes. I hate that. Because my hand is just hanging loosely, awaiting death. Ah, younger version of Steve Vai, you're too kind, man. I feel like an older version of myself, which I am, and that's a good thing. Could be a dead version of myself. Just because you said Steve Vai and I didn't even have a whammy bar. There we have it. Oh man. Hopefully next session I won't be as rusty as this one. Oh man, there's something I need to... Yeah, a whammy bar would help me do these. Still fun though. Cool, guys. I'm gonna have to leave now. I'm gonna go get my daughter from school, and hopefully you'll be tuning in next time, and hopefully by then my shops will have gotten a little bit more warmed up. It's really like you have this, I don't know, layer of clog or something. I'm sure you guys know the feeling. Maybe it's something you've mastered in the past and you're trying to play it and it's like, oh man, it doesn't work. That's my feeling for pretty much anything I play on the guitar right now. But I know from experience that there's only one solution: practice, practice, practice. So that's what I recommend both of us do. Just practice our asses up. That would be a good strategy, I think. So have a good one, and thanks so much for tuning in and following the channel. It means the world. Without your support and without all the feedback and all the great comments I get, it wouldn't be a lot of fun. So please keep it coming. See ya. Cheers.